Peace and love, everybody. Salute. Salute to the good people. I hope y'all are doing good. I was sitting back the last couple of days, just taking the temperature of the boxing landscape, watching sort of from the shadows, I suppose. Just curious about the nature of what people's focus has been on, and what the current kind of rolled in post Ryan Garcia's highly disturbing, racially charged tirade. And it made me kind of question all types of things within the boxing landscape and within the culture that, of course, we will divulge in a moment. But in thinking about it, I guess it brought me to some very particular points in my analysis just of the landscape, and how fickle and how eager people were willing and ready to get off of the subject of Ryan altogether. And it was very interesting to me. And of course, we spoke about it in the previous commentaries that I did, over the past week. But I'm still left with, I guess, a perplexed state of mind concerning it, because it's just not my stance at all. as a boxing fan, as a Black person, as a person who upholds the culture, it's just not a stance that I support, that I can get with. It's definitely not one that I can wrap my mind around because of my particular views. So yes, I have been sitting back definitely over the past few days, as I said, watching the temperature of the boxing scene post the Riri racist. I call him Riri the racist, okay, and all his vile, deplorable statements. And I find it quite worthy of noting at this particular time, in the aftermath of it, and now that we are a week removed from it, it's definitely worthy of noting how limited the attention span of the boxing world is. Real talk. And is deliberately choosing to be. This is a deliberate stance, a deliberate course of action or non-action, however it is that you want to view that. It's a deliberate decision on the part of the boxing world. And unfortunately, I would say even more significant than that is how Black fighters, Black boxing fans, have strategically decided to not penalize, to not pressure, or consistently castigate Ryan for his disgusting remarks. Okay? As I said, this was only 1 week ago, you guys. 1 week has gone by. Only a week. And already, no one, virtually, no one is talking about it. And what's sick is that, there was already an obvious concerted effort made by boxing media outlets to dissuade and divert attention away from the severity and outrageousness of that man's statements, along with all types of ridiculous attempts, to appeal to notions of Ryan being, somehow unaccountable for his words due to, excuses. Oh, well, he's just young, or, apparently some type of mental issues are going on with him. There was the excuse of alcohol usage. I mean, you name it. The pardons and the justifications made on his behalf were out of this world. As many of us who are conscious about the situation and have been watching it for what it is, know, okay? Already having been faced with such attempts, basically at the diminishment and bypassing of racially charged hateful language towards Black people, all of the alluding, you guys, seems to have worked like a charm out in these streets. All of the alluding of that worked like clockwork, really. The already limited voices that were out here speaking out and giving backlash against Ryan and his sympathizers have now themselves retracted, have now themselves balkanized and dispersed into even lesser visibility. People who are actually standing on the business are even lesser in number from an already limited supply of voices that were speaking out against him and out against the disrespect that he spewed. It really is disheartening to see. And I know, unfortunately, there are going to be a swarm of people who may feel like, oh, well, let bygones be bygones, or that was the past, let's move on. The past? I mean, apparently a week is a lifetime to these cowards. I already know the past is going to go, well, that was the past, he said it, let's move on. It's insane to me. And they really, the words really sicken me to my stomach. And for me, it begs the question, if it only takes a week for Black people to let go and to forget about issues that concern them, then why should we even waste time being incited about things that happened to us in the first place, whether in the sport or out of the sport? The social dynamics, as I always aim to remind people on this platform, are fully operable and at play in boxing, you guys. There is no separate social order in boxing, okay? It's played out within the dynamic of boxing as well, because this is the construct of human beings, the interplay. So people's perspectives and ideas are going to be seen in the sports world as well. So basically, our failure to show up, our failure to show solidarity in this particular moment, and organization culturally in this moment, only evinces the lack of our solidarity in this situation with Ryan. It's unfortunate that so many people, fighters, media outlets, and fans alike, have deliberately stayed as far away as possible from even addressing this subject. We just saw Floyd Mayweather only days ago run as fast as he could, like that man's pants were on fire, okay? Running away from a question that was posed to him regarding this. He refused to comment. And other Black fighters have also danced around the issue, and some foolishly expressing tenderness towards Ryan's quote unquote emotional well-being. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. You really just can't. I wanted to redeposit my thoughts on this matter and circle back because I don't want to hear a year from now or 2 years from now or whenever something such as this commences or occurs again, any cries or complaints about how terrible it all is or how wrong somebody was for saying such and such about Black people or whatever. I don't want to hear shit. Because here and now, where it matters, where it counts in this moment, none of you pussies showed up. So I don't want to hear shit. There are but a minority who have, in addition to myself, spoken up and remained consistent on the issue. Too many other people have failed and deliberately neglected to put the fire up Ryan's ass and to keep that fire on his ass. Too many people are refraining from unifying to get something like his social media canceled and taken down, to get things like, his endorsers and everything else to revoke their support and cease doing business with him. Okay? We didn't do that. There was no unifying point to get that done. We didn't apply that collective pressure on his ass enough to get him to go running to news networks across the country, for example, to make a public apology to all Black people that he's offended, including, most of all, the family and loved ones of George Floyd, who were absolutely disrespected and dishonored? No, you guys. The problem is that nothing is being taken seriously. And the cowardly will opt for the stance that says, oh, well, he just said what he said. That was just his thoughts. But as I posed several times previously, when does the respect get demanded to be put on our names? When does that part come into play? That you don't get to tote no banner around, whether you think you're playing or playing a prank or making jokes or not. You don't play about our people. But unfortunately, it seems to be a free-for-all because our people are playing about themselves. I think a lot of that posture has been evinced in the case of Shakur Stevenson, what we've seen of people running and riding the bandwagon of, bringing their attention and shifting their whatever little attention they wanted to place on Ryan was now, made hyperbolic now as it pertains to Shakur Stevenson. Shakur became the scapegoat for the weak-minded in boxing. He was far too many people's excuse, you guys, to happily and eagerly turn a blind eye away from Ryan. Shakur has now become the saving grace in this past week for the cowardly. He was something else, something other that they could put their attention to so that they don't have to stand up for some real shit. It was too real in the previous week. And so Shakur and his performance came along. And this was now an excuse, to become a target practice for them. All of the aggressions that they were too cowardly and too reticent to display against Ryan Garcia is now being pursued full force as it pertains to Shakur Stevenson. Okay? They could sit comfortably in their mother's basement and type away on Twitter, all the sassy thoughts they could muster up about his performance, all in the name of not being called to duty against Ryan Garcia and some real issues, some real matters that could have used that aggression, as I stated previously. The cowardliness, you guys, seems to have grown, ever pervasive in our culture and the dynamic. When are we going to hold people accountable? When are we going to hold ourselves accountable? When will the other brothers in the boxing world, the fighters themselves, stop considering themselves, a one-dimensional, myopic aspect in the sport? Because certainly, if there was a fraternity mindset among our brothers in the boxing world, we'd have something special and something serious on our hands, and trust that not a fraction of what we see here as far as the disbursement and the disunity that we see would be going on. We'd have seen a lot more brothers, the fighters I'm talking about, stomping and making noise about the hellacious decision against O'Shaquie Foster and the robbery that unfortunately he has to deal with. There would have actually been a support system for somebody like Devin Haney, who was cheated by a filthy drug cheat in Ryan Garcia. There would have been a community to back him, and none of the charades that we would have seen Ryan get away with over the past however many months it's been now would have been possible if there were a community of people who were standing for Devin and repping for Devin, as we should have been. And the list can go on and on and on about the ways in which we should have shown up and could still seek to gain to show up now. But the mindset is lacking. The mindset is lacking. And that is what leaves me very much displeased. While we are out here giving our commentary or our thoughts, or when we give our picks on who's the best and who we think is going to kick such and such ass, or who's pound for pound here or pound for pound there, why can't we also stand on business for the culture? Why can't we also draw some lines, also delineate some boundaries, and have some principles that could be applicable to and in support of our respect and authority in this sport? Why not both and? And I'll leave you guys to think about that. I'm on to the next for now, y'all. Peace.